Welcome to my podcast, People, Passion, and Purpose. Today, I have the great privilege of being with my very best friend, Jeff, who has been living a really, incredible experience, beautiful experience, also at times very scary experience. And I hope that people listening to this podcast will see the light and in their own lives, and this will help whoever's here to be with us at any time that you're listening to this podcast. So, Jeff, welcome. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So, the last few years of your life have been, what would you call it?
The last few years of my life have been transcendent.
Okay. And so what does that mean to you?
Mm-hmm. So,
and where's that coming from?
Yeah. Okay. So, I'll start with the first part, and then I'll answer the second part.
Good.
So, the transcendence has come from being able to live from a place within myself that goes beyond my day-to-day identification as Jeff, this guy who lives in this place, who does this for a living, who's walking around in this body. And so my sense of self has become more expansive. I recognize myself as a part of something much greater than just myself. I've been practicing my life over the last few years so that I can stay in touch as much as possible with the part of me that comes from the depths of a oneness that we're all a part of, and unfolding as myself, as the Jeff part from that place. So the second part of your question, how did that start?
Yeah.
So I'll back up a little bit further quickly to say that ever since I was a teenager, I've always had a sense that there's something else beyond the physical stuff going on.
Right.
And that was primarily sparked by just an awareness that coincidences happen sometimes. You know, the things we talk about very casually, like, oh, I just thought of this person and then they called, or
right.
I was thinking of him or her and I ran into them on the street, or things like that. And I was aware of them as a younger person, a much younger person. And I became so fascinated with it that it brought me to a place where I recognized that life itself was a gift, because we were living in some kind of magic. And by that word, I mean we were living in something, we were a part of something extraordinary that went beyond what the eye can see. And I saw that, and I recognized that life itself was a gift.
Right.
Just being alive was a gift. And
knowing you for so many years, Jeff has always had that. Like, you have always been much deeper, I'll say more spiritual or more connected than other people that I know. Yeah.
Well, so I saw that, I guess in my late teens and in my early 20s, it translated to wanting to help other people recognize that in themselves. So that led me on a path where I ended up working with disadvantaged youth,
right,
to help them connect with their own inner value, right, in an attempt to help them to see that in themselves, and then throughout other careers, always always sort of wavering around the goal of helping people recognize who they truly were at a deeper level.
Okay.
Although I didn't have the words to describe it in that way then, but I knew that there was something that people could recognize in their own nature that went beyond the day-to-day.
Okay.
Okay. So, moving back now 6.5 years, I was out running one day, and near the end of my run, I was wearing my phone with my music on my arm, and I just looked down for 1 second at the end of my run to press stop in my music, and I smashed into a stop sign pole, and I smashed into the pole. I fell down. I was confused. I was concussed, and I was about 3 minutes from my house, but it took me about 25 minutes to find my way home because I just couldn't orient myself.
Wow.
I had the wherewithal to put on my Google Maps and do the walk option and find my way back to my street, which I did. And then I walked right by my house because I didn't recognize the house. And I got to the end of the street and I thought, I think I live up there. Anyway,
wow.
Long story short, I came home, and my husband saw that I was out of it. I was bleeding. My nose was bleeding. And I said, I had an accident. And they said, we need to go to the hospital. And I said, well, no, we have a party tonight. I think we had some party. So I was just going to have a shower and, change and go to the party. I said, no, we need to go to the hospital. Anyway, we went to the hospital, and I had a scan to check for concussion or any bleeding or anything internally. And what I discovered a few weeks later was that they found a brain tumor. So within 3 weeks after finding out that I had a brain tumor, I was in surgery. I had a craniotomy where they open your skull to take out a malignant brain tumor. And so that was another beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because, I guess when I try to make sense of things, even though I don't really have to make sense of things, but I have that, in me that we all want to make sense of things, is that, I guess how you are today, it's still who you were back then, just like how you're dealing with this. And I always felt like you were like Jeff. And then I said, and since your accident and finding the brain tumor, you're like Jeff, like on steroids, I say, right? I joke about that. But so things have been amplified, but maybe I also didn't listen clearly enough, or I don't know. Do you feel a little different, or?
So there's so much that's happened in the last 6.5 years. But what the experience has done is catapult me into connecting with healing in any way that I can.
Right.
So because I love life so much, I'm determined to live it with as much control as anyone has in life. And we all know that we don't have ultimate final control. But what I have realized is that I can participate as fully as I can. That's a choice that I have, that I have control over. I can choose to participate in my healing as much as possible. And so I was determined from the very beginning to do everything I could, to find every opening that I could to participate in healing, so that I could live. And, so I think when you say Jeff on steroids, it's because in this event, all of the windows to spirit, which is how I can, maybe one way of describing it, all of the windows to spirit that I've been aware of most of my life, they all really sort of narrowed in, became very, very close. I was surrounded by them all of a sudden.
Right.
And it became apparent that I needed to open up those windows and start exploring, and not just start exploring, but really trying to understand on any level, on every level, and in every dimension that I could.
Right.
And not just theoretically, but in practice. So not just in knowing the idea that, oh, we have bodies, but we also have spirits.
Right.
There's also something else going on.
Right.
I really, somehow in that moment of understanding that, oh, I had a brain tumor, something opened up. And I remember describing it back then as I was actually sitting on this couch right here where we are, and I was staring at that wall. And it was within maybe days after getting the diagnosis, before the surgery. And it really felt like something opened up, like a window opened up. And I knew that the one thing that I had to do was orient myself toward God. And I use the word God to describe my experience and my relationship with God, which other people might have the term the source or the universe or the great intelligence or the mystery of life or life. Everyone has their own word for it.
Right.
And so I'm not using the word God in any specific religious context. I'm using it in a very purely global, universal context of, I felt like there was an intelligence that was inviting me to connect. And in that moment, the best way I can describe it is to say that I felt held. I felt held. And I think I even started to smile or laugh. And I remember thinking, if anyone could see me now, they would think I was nuts. Because here I am. I just found out that I have a brain tumor that's probably cancerous. I'm going to have brain surgery in a few weeks. And in that moment, I never felt more full and more full of bliss than I ever had in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
I'll
pause there.
Yeah, it's okay. I find it fascinating, and my old work schedule, and then COVID, and then if I have a cold, or we've been able to spend time together, but not as much time as I would have liked. And you're very busy, and so when we are together, I find like I want to get to know you more. I want to hear from you more. I want to not get to know the new Jeff, but know more about what you're experiencing, and I find that I make it very important that when we see each other, that I'm not really thinking about anything else, and I'm present because you're so present. So you are like, I mean, it's not that you're like leading, but you're leading by example. So do you understand what I'm trying to say? Okay. So, I just wanted to share that.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, please.
I think it's interesting. I think you just picked up on something that I was responding to internally that I wasn't saying. And because when you say leading by example, I'm very aware that I don't want my own experience to be perceived as being ego led. And so that's so what you were sensing there was some kind of, you picked up on a subtle reaction that I was having to, I don't want to be seen as a leader.
Well, I didn't want to use the word leader,
right? Because that feels very on the surface ego driven to me. But what I can say, and then now I'm going to be talking the whole time.
Yeah, but then I'll talk about the word leader.
Yes, but what I can say is that what I'm discovering is that as important as it is to be fully aware of one's self, and to be fully caring for oneself, and to be aware of my own energy and my own well-being, that allowing that to happen allows me to then be present for another in a way that I couldn't before. Now I can bring my full self, my sense of awareness of needing to be fully present to myself, to being present to others. But it's in that a third space is created. And it's in that sharing that something happens. And so I think what you're really saying is what you're seeing in me is just my intention and my will to bring the truest part of myself as a responsibility to us, because we are united. We are one.
So what I mean by the word leader is not like leader of a company or leader of a line or leader of anything. But when I use the word lead by example, I just mean like we're all leaders, you know. You know, a leader is someone who is doing something positive, sharing something positive. I see it in a positive way, like you just like leading by example, like being a good person, being kind, paying it forward, things like that. So I don't mean it in an ego way. Yeah, exactly. That's what we talked about.
I just thought it was interesting.
Yes, yeah. Like I didn't want, leader. I don't mean in that way, but also, I could say that it's such a gift, that I know that when I'm with you, that I'm with you and you're with me. You get it?
Yeah, I get it.
So that's like a real gift. And it's something that is, so I take that gift, right? Like this gift, and I try, or I don't like to use the word try, but I would hope that at times I can be successful at bringing this gift of being present, right? And being with someone in the same way to someone else too, right?
I know you're successful because I've seen you do it. I've been witness to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, just in your general way of being with people, you bring that.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I really didn't know that.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, okay. I try to, I don't try, I practice. It's a better word, practice. I practice when I'm with someone to feel who they are and allow them to show themselves to me as much as possible, So that's good. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now, can we talk a little bit about the feeling that you have when you're ready to go for a scan?
Yeah. So I'll just explain. So since the surgery, I have to go for an MRI every 3 months to check for any recurrence, to make sure that everything is clear. And so my first surgery was in August 2017. And it's now to 2023. No, it's actually now 2024.
Exactly.
As of like just a few weeks ago.
That's right.
And I'm saying that for really for the benefit of anybody who might be listening now.
Yep.
Right at the outset, who might be going through some kind of brain cancer or other illness, where they're faced with the statistics that tell them that the odds are bad. And I say that because if you start Googling things for the type of cancer that I had, the odds were very bad. And if you look to that story as the only story, it's very possible to lose hope. So I want to say that at the outset, as somebody who is an example of having now not just lived for 6.5 years post diagnosis, but in a way, my life has been the most beautiful it's ever been in the last 6.5 years. So, okay, back to what I was saying. So I have MRIs every 3 months, and for the first couple of years, I was super, super nervous because it was all so new, and I thought, oh my God, what if there's a recurrence? What's going to happen? And then eventually, so I would be anxious for about 2 weeks leading up to the scan, and then over time, that 2 weeks sort of became reduced to maybe a week, and then in the last maybe year and a half, I found that I was anxious. Anxious is a strong word. I was aware. I was thinking about it for a few days. I thought, oh, that's cool. I haven't really been so preoccupied with it on my mind all the time for 2 weeks. It's only been kind of a couple of days that I'm thinking about it. And then for the last few scans, I wasn't even nervous. I was so utterly convinced that it was behind me that I was just living my life. And then in the fall of a year and a bit ago, so in the fall of 2022, I had a scan. We thought everything showed up fine. And then I found out a few weeks later that there was a recurrence.
Right.
So in November of 2022, I had another surgery because there was a small recurrence. And that was a shock. And I had to go through the same craniotomy that I had, 5 years earlier. And so since that scan, of course, there continue to be MRIs every 3 months. But something changed after the last surgery, because all of a sudden I understood that cancer, it could come back anytime. And so my relationship with life had to all of a sudden include a relationship with death.
Right.
And it's hard to explain, but I can try to kind of point to it by saying that as I practiced pointing myself toward healing in whichever way I could, I recognized in the conversations with myself, in my meditations, in my inner explorations, I realized that the only way that I could truly be free to live, in spite of everything, in spite of the unknown circumstances of life, the only way that I could truly be free was to become friends with my fears,
right,
my deepest fears, and not just acknowledge them as, I see you, but I had to hold hands with my fear, right, and walk through them and be with them. You know, there's an expression, it's not my expression, but there's an expression that says, the only way out is through. And that's what really had to happen to me. I really had to enter into the deepest The deepest abyss of despair and fear. I had to cry. I really had to face my mortality.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I had to face my mortality.
Yeah.
I had to recognize that this part of life, and I emphasize that this part of life is impermanent.
Yeah.
And what happened then is that all of a sudden the beauty of impermanence became clear. I started to understand impermanence as everything. And nature is the only way that life can live is through death.
Right.
I mean, these aren't my lessons. These are just things that I'm, as one human being, starting to understand in my life, that in order for our beautiful trees to come alive in the spring, all the leaves have to fall off. They have to shrivel up and fall off and fall into the soil beneath them every winter for the tree to bloom again. I mean, this is just, life happens with death. One can't happen without the other. So, and as I say it, I'm starting to touch that feeling again, but really inhabiting that space is allowing me to appreciate my presence within this impermanence in such a way that I find it so valuable and so precious and such a privilege. Jeff on steroids, the privilege that I sensed 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever, the privilege of being able to be here embodied now. It's like a gravitational force to be so responsible to it that all I want to do is inhabit the spirit of my being so that I can unfold that permanent, non-temporal, eternal, foundational part of myself that extends before and beyond my body, through my living. And if I can do that in my life, it brings me to tears, because that's how it feels a lot of the time now. Yeah. That's all I want to do. That's the only space I ever want to be in.
Yeah. So you lost me at the word. I mean, I understood everything before and after, but non-temporal.
Yeah.
Like a temporary, comes from the word temporary, right? Yeah. So basically what you're saying, let me see if I can, is that, you know that life is temporary, basically, and you know that there's a cycle of life, and you know that nothing is forever.
Yes and no.
Okay. So never mind that part.
Okay.
But you allow yourself, or you live in that space where, how can I say this? You live in that space where you know that you won't be here forever. Part of you won't be here forever. Like your physical won't be here forever.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
And that you're part of this much bigger story of the world and life and nature.
Right. And just to add to that, just to deepen it a little bit, the intelligent, mysterious force that allows life to happen is, in fact, is us. It's not that I have a life or you have a life.
Right.
And I'm repeating the words of Eckhart Tolle, who I love.
Yeah.
But he reiterates that it's not, you don't have a life, I don't have a life. We are life.
Right.
We are life living itself.
Yeah.
And so whatever force, whatever intelligence that has allowed the Charlene, the Jeff to unfold here in matter is incomprehensible with our limited human minds. But I believe that it's timeless, it's eternal, it's beyond comprehension in this dimension of our existence. But I have had enough evidence, enough proof in my life here to know that it does exist. So all the things that I was sort of scratching at in my late teens and in my early 20s, thinking, wow, what's going on here? There's something. It's all become much more not clear, and not to say that I have all the answers to,
yeah.
but it's become far more obvious to me and evident, and I've been given the evidence and the proof to know undeniably that we are part of something that is much more than just us, and is beautiful and is organized, and it's flowing through us. And so I think our job is to get out of the way, allow the Jeffness to get out of the way, and let it flow through us in the way that it wants to be conscious.
So I want to take a little break, but before we take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about other things. But going back to, let's say, like, where are you at now? When's your next scan?
So my last scan was in September.
Okay.
My next scan will be in March. So
it's every 6 months.
No, it's every 3 months.
September. October,
sorry. My last one was in.
You had it, I think.
I had it in December. Yes, thank you. Yeah,
December.
Yeah, December.
Okay.
And next one's in March.
Okay, so you have a little while, and now you're living your life very intentionally and with all your levels of consciousness and.
Now she's poking fun.
I'm trying.
Because I know
I'm
her.
not poking fun. I'm trying to speak your language.
I know.
I'm trying to speak your language. I know. And until then, you're living your life.
Yeah.
Like really to the fullest every single day.
Yes.
And everything you do is in your life is to take care of your body and your soul and your mind, so that you can do your other things like work or read your book or be with people or things like that. Is that sort of?
Yes. And it's not even that there's a division anymore between I'm taking care of my body and my soul and my mind so that I can work and read my book. They've all merged now into one thing.
Okay.
So that working, or reading, or dancing, or eating, or drinking a glass of water, or spending time with my friend, it's all an expression of my practice when I remember. And so my challenge is to remember as often as possible.
Okay.
Be in the now.
Right.
Now. It's now.
Yeah.
What can I bring now?
Right. I also, I understand that, and I experience that. And I also have to like wake myself up sometimes and like stop for a moment and say, okay, what are my intentions here? So I can understand that for sure. I don't have mortality on my mind in the same way. I don't know, I don't have that. But that part I can totally understand for sure. And I mean, even if you didn't have the mortality, well, like you said, the mortality maybe got you a little bit further, a little bit quicker.
I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
It feels like this, it's a very common expression, journey with cancer, but having faced illness in the way that I have has literally, if I had hair, imagine I had hair on like a top knot.
Yeah.
It would have like grabbed me by the top knot
Right.
where I was in my 20s
Yeah.
and said, okay, Jeff, you went and, you've done all these other things, but where you really need to be is here.
Right.
And like stuck me in the mud. Like,
Right.
this is where I feel rooted
Okay.
now. So it's a huge gift.
Yeah.
No
Because
matter
you could
what
feel,
happens,
you feel so much.
I feel like myself.
Yeah.
I feel like truly
you
like
just
myself.
you feel, you're experiencing, you feel. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
You're alive.
constantly grateful for being.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect time for a little break. And we're going to talk about some other things when we come back.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here for the first part. And hopefully you'll join us for the next. Let's take a little break.